Good morning, everyone. I am Ms. Brigitte V. Varon from the Bureau of Learning Delivery, Teaching and Learning Division, and I am tasked to discuss to you the understanding of our instructional design in the context of English. To start with, I would like to put emphasis on our instructional designs in relation to how you will be evaluating your textbooks and teachers' manuals. And to define what is a K to 10 instructional design framework, it serves as a standardized guide for instruction and learning materials. So, our IDF in the Bureau of Learning Delivery will be your anchor on how you will be able to evaluate if the materials are good or not. Also, it would serve as originated to establish a common approach to instructional planning for the classrooms. Based on RA 10533, which defines the curriculum as a learner centered, developmentally appropriate, and inclusive. And to further discuss to you our K to 10 ID framework, one, it encouraged the use of constructivist, inquiry based, reflective, collaborative, and integrative pedagogical approaches. Also, it reflects the shared vision of the revised curriculum. So, when it comes to our IDF, it's very important that you will be able to look at the lens of how the big ideas work in terms of how it is constructed in our textbook and also in our teacher's manual. Also, it guides the teaching and learning assessment process that provides a fundamental and yet very flexible approach for our teachers who will be using our textbooks and teacher's manual. Also, it encompass and just to enlighten you with our key features of the framework, it is seamlessly cuts across learning stages and learning areas. So we are putting emphasis on promoting interdisciplinary connections and of course a well-rounded educational experience. So it's very important that in the material that you will be evaluating, there should be uh, emphasis on developing a well-rounded educational experience to our learners. Next would be it also emphasizes the learner's role in the instructional process, wherein we are enabling them to actively participate in the decision making and co creation of the learning activities. So nowadays, it's very important that as the material should have a good set of questions wherein our students would be able to think out of the box and not rely on a lot of artificial intelligent platforms that they can search of. It's very important that our textbook would have a good quality of process questions and guide questions. The materials also should have a clear guidance when it comes to facilitating the collaboration among school administrators, teachers, and learners, ensuring a unified approach towards achieving learning objectives and enhancing learners' progress. Also, the material should promote the flexibility to foster creativity and collaboration among learners and teachers and instructional leaders, encouraging innovative approaches to teaching and learning process. Also, one of the key features of the framework is that it is a descriptive rather than prescriptive. It outlines our key elements and the consideration for adopting teaching strategies, materials, and educational approaches to meet the learning standards. So, when it comes to how it would be shown in a lesson exemplar or in a material, it is to, uh, again, we put emphasis that our key features of the framework is descriptive rather than prescriptive. Also, it focuses on the design of the instruction rather than prescribing a specific procedure. So, although we have existing DOs to support the parts of a lesson exemplar or parts of a textbook, a part of a teacher's manual, our IDF is allowing for a selection of what do you think is suitable pedagogical approaches and models that best suit the learning context of our learners? Also, the material should have this uniformity and consistency when it comes to planning the lesson, ensuring a cohesive educational experience across classroom and schools. Also, our IDF focus on inclusion of clear and measurable learning objective. So just like in the material, it is very important that each of the parts of the material should focus on providing a clear direction throughout the instructional process. Also, our IDF encourages the use of diverse instructional strategies that caters to different learning styles and preferences. So, your material should also have diverse strategies when it comes to giving activities. So, we need to make sure that the material we are evaluating has this different types of activities wherein we all believe that when it comes to learning preferences, we have diverse learners, and when it comes to diverse learners, they have different preferences and learning styles. It's suggested that the inclusions of appropriate assessment tools and opportunities for feedback to evaluate learners' own progress and understanding. And also, just to give you a clear picture of how our IDF looks like, it is our K to 10 instructional design framework wherein, as you can see, there are these big circles or the big ideas wherein it's all interconnected at the center, which is the learner. That means it's very crucial and it's very important that our material that that we will be using caters the needs of the learners. It compasses, encapsulates all the curriculum, teaching, and learning assessments. And just to give you a specific of our IDF, it has our four instructional principles that our principles aim is to promote holistic learners of lifelong learning, persuasive equipped learners to become informed decision makers and productive work wherein we focus on innovative, integrative, inclusive, and ideational. So when we talk about inclusive, your material should focus on creating accessible and meaningful learning experience for all learners regardless of the background or abilities. So we need to secure that our material focuses on the accessible and meaningful learning for our learners to experience that regardless of their abilities and their backgrounds. Also, it emphasizes culturally responsible materials and accommodating those who have special needs. Also, aside from inclusive, the material should also be ideational, wherein we encourage a creative thought process and idea generation without judgment, and of course, exposes our learners to various solution and unexpected idea and connection. Also, for our instructional principles, we have integrative. So when we talk about integrative, it combines different elements into a unified whole, utilizing, of course, real life situation and connection between concepts. So the material, again, should have scenarios or situation based wherein our learners will be able to think out of the box, and of course it would help our learners to relate to the content, to their lives, and deepen their understanding. Also, in our instructional principles, we have innovative, wherein we explore creative ways in designing and delivering instruction. Just like in the material that you will be evaluating, they should have a creative way of designing and delivering the instruction. Also, the material should utilize emerging technologies of varied teaching methods and innovative assessment strategies to engage our learners. Next to our key aspects of our ID, so it has, of course, four C's, wherein our key aspect of instructional design, imparting the planning, delivery, and assessment of teaching and learning process. So to be specific, we have first is the context. So when we talk about context, of course, it relates teaching materials to learners' daily life, experiences, enhancing motivation to participate actively in learning activities. So we need that our material should have, of course, daily life experiences wherein the students will be able to relate what they are experiencing to the material that they are reading or to our textbooks and manuals. Also, connection, it's very important that we foster the understanding and the development of how we transfer the knowledge. Also, the material should also aim for the student to build a robust and flexible knowledge applicable to new problems and contexts. So it's very important that the material you will be evaluating can relate, has context and connection to our learners. Next is collaboration. So when talk about collaboration, it involves a cooperative processes where students work together to achieve a common goal. So it's very important that in our activity, in the textbooks and teacher's manual, it's very essential that when it comes to group work, pair work, or wherein they will be collaborating with their classmates, the sets of instructions, questions, and activities should be something that foster a lot of collaboration, recognizing, of course, the individual skills and accountability, wherein we are preparing our students to have this lifelong interaction. Also, we have creativity, wherein we are trying to encourage how the use of imagination and critical thinking to create meaningful experiences of our learners. So it's very important that the material focuses on developing the creativity of the learners, wherein we are trying to promote a generation of new ideas and innovative solutions to our students, that they will be able to think and be creative in such a way that the materials would help them out. After those important creativity, collaborative, putting on context, and of course, creating a good connection to our students, next would be, of course, our 4 E's, which are the key aspect of our instructional design in impacting to the planning, the delivery, and assessment of the teaching and learning process. And just to give you more specific examples when it comes to how we will be incorporating the 4 essentials or our 4 E's, let's have the first, which is the word engage. So, as defined, it captures our learners' attention and stimulates interest through various strategies and techniques. So, if you have seen the parts of our textbooks and teacher's manual, this part of you checking the material is when we are looking for activities that fosters or activate the prior knowledge of our students, wherein we need to check if the activities that are given in our material emotionally connect to enhance motivation for them to learn. Also, the second part is the word explore. So, as defined, when we talk about explore, it encourages independent discovery of new concepts and ideas. And of course, it promotes active learning and problem solving skills. So in the part of the material, we need to check if the text, if it's in English, of course, the text, the springboard that they are using, the process questions and the guide questions afterwards are encouraging our learners to have, of course, independent discovery. Wherein, as teacher, as the facilitator of learning in the classroom, when they use the textbook or they use the teacher's manual, you need to check if our material is giving us this the kind of experience that the learners should explore with thinking out of the box, not just with the process questions that we have, but of course, they need to develop new concept that after the discussion, they learn something more. After that is, of course, the experience. So, as defined, it allows the application of the acquired knowledge in real world context. So, if you will be looking at our textbooks or our teacher's manual, you need to check whether the activities that are given after the discussions applies to this essential, which is we need to facilitate the transfer of learning to practical situations. And then the last essential, which is to emphasize, here comes our the reflection part of our material wherein we encourage as defined, we encourage understanding and connection with learning materials, and it supports socio-emotional learning that helps learners to from bonds form bonds from bonds, of course, to improve communication and resolve conflicts.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Jerome Hilario from the Bureau of Learning Delivery to share to you the major considerations for teachers' manuals and textbooks. So first, we have to ensure that these materials are aligned with the curriculum guide. So when we quality assure and evaluate materials, let's see if these materials are addressing the learning competencies, the performance and content standards, and also the different elements of the Matatag curriculum. Next to consider is its conformity to the instructional design. So as discussed by Miss Brigitte a while ago, we have to ensure that these materials are reflective of the four I's, the four C's, and the four E's. Uh, Also, let's also consider if the different pedagogical approaches are addressed. These approaches are written in the RA 10533. So we have the 2C, 2I, 1R, and the different pedagogical approaches as reflected from the general shaping paper of the Matatag curriculum and the different pedagogical approaches mentioned in the curriculum guide for English. Next consideration is that the materials have to be accurate and relevant. So let's ensure that these materials are accurately written, comprehensive for the students to read and understand. Let's also ensure that these materials are relevant, not only for our students but in our context as well, and the different concepts and information are up to date. Also, since these materials are considered to be references for our learners, let's ensure that the content are written are research based. The information are cited with credible or from credible resources with permissions for use. This only shows that these materials are reliable, valid, and trustworthy. Of course, one other consideration is that the development of the lesson in the textbook or in the teacher's manual have to be complete, from the presentation to its development to its discussion to the different applications provided and to the assessment used are or are ensuring a well-rounded and comprehensive approach to lesson development. So please remember the four E's discussed a while ago. Another consideration is that the lessons have to be presented seamlessly. So this provides organization to the learners when they use these materials. So we also have to ensure that the learning objectives are aligned with the different activities provided, with the content presented, and with the assessments used. So, seamless lesson presentation. Next consideration is that the learning materials have to be inclusive. So, we have to ensure that whatever things that are presented in the textbook have to be age appropriate, individualized, gender sensitive, and culturally appropriate. This fosters an inclusive and a well rounded learning environment. Also, when we encounter questions in the textbooks, we have to ensure that the questioning have to be progressive. This means that the learners are guided when they develop when these materials develop and apply critical thinking skills. So let's ensure that if there are questions that promotes higher order thinking, lower order thinking have to be questions have to be presented first. So this only shows progression and helps learners to think critically because they start with the lower order thinking skills. Of course, as assigned to quality assure the materials, let's ensure that the content of the material are error free. They're free from typographical errors, conceptual errors, factual errors, grammatical errors, computational errors, procedural errors, pedagogical errors, and social content errors. So, also in terms of content, let's ensure that the materials avoid plagiarism and promotes academic integrity. Then last consideration is accessibility and usability. So let's ensure that these materials are easy to access and very useful for our learners. Without the guidance of their teachers, these materials ensure that the learners can do the different activities and tasks and understand the different lessons presented in the textbook. Um, of course, these materials have to be or ensuring user friendliness, uh, is visually appealing and accessible to all range of learners. So thank you very much for listening. And if you have questions, please, we're very much willing to help you. Thank you very much and God bless.